so that I can send this out to you if you have questions later. And of course, if you have questions at all, just put them in the chat or, pop in, ask questions as we're going through all of this. So I always like to talk about the why of our key assessment, why we're doing what we do. Because I feel that sometimes you guys have these key assessments and you're like, how am I going to use this in the future? How does this relate to what I'm doing? So the whole point of this key assessment in particular is we start with the idea that we teach the way that we were taught. And that can be good or it can be bad. Because if I asked you a question and said, I want you all to think about your favorite teacher, you can all come up with who your favorite teachers are. And if I ask you who was your worst teacher, you probably could come up with that response as well. And some of what teachers do on a regular basis is really good and makes a lot of sense, but it's not always based in evidence. An example I use of that is how many of you, and you can just give me a thumbs up or put it in the chat, yes or no, have seen teachers use clip charts for behavior in the classroom? How many of you have seen that before? Probably a lot of you. Well, believe it or not, clip charts have no basis of evidence that they work. None. In fact, there's evidence that they don't work, which is really interesting. But we see them, and some people said, hey, this looks like a good idea, and then a bunch of people followed along and did it. When in reality, there is no basis in research, and there is no evidence to show that clip charts work. For some kids, maybe they do, but the research does not show it. So we have these practices, we have good and bad practices. And what we need to do as educators is we need to find the best evidence-based practices in order to do the best for our students. So that's why this whole semester, I'll be talking about evidence-based practices, high leverage practices, and they all kind of go together. They all kind of meld together in some sort of way. But the whole point behind this particular key assessment is to find evidence-based practices that work for kids, or that you think might possibly work for a kid. So what are you going to do? The big piece of this key assessment is you're going to examine 3 different evidence-based practices, and I'm going to show you where to find them. You're going to compare and contrast these practices, and you're going to select one practice that would work well. And I know this says your 4,000 student, but ignore that part because it used to be connected to your 4,000 class. Now it's just this class. So you're going to select one practice that you think would work for your case study student that you've already started looking at. And then you're going to support your decision using peer-reviewed research. Well, okay, but that sounds like a lot of work, and I promise you we're going to walk through it step by step. So what do you have to do? Those of you who've had me before as a professor know that I only give these number of paragraphs because people always ask me how many paragraphs it has to be. I personally don't care. I want you to make sure that you get the information to me. The number of paragraphs is a completely moot point to me. Okay, but this gives you a little help along the way, for lack of a better term. So you're going to have your description of your student, which is going to be about 1 to 3 paragraphs. Make sure that you talk about the background of the student. A lot of this you're going to get directly from the evaluation report that you have. Okay, then you're going to talk about the area of need. You're going to select one area of need. Do not select more than one. You will not be able to do this whole project if you select more than one. And the area of need has to be academic. Okay, it cannot be behavior. And I know a lot of us get stuck in that behavior mindset because you just did your FBA in your ABA class last spring, but I don't want you to get stuck in that behavior mindset. The reason I picked these 6 students is because every single one of them has an academic area of need. And if you have a hard time figuring what that area of need is, come and talk to me, okay? Then you're going to fill out this evidence-based practice worksheet, which I will go over with you. Then you're going to compare and contrast the 3 practices. This is the section students lose the most points on, because what they do is they explain the practice to me, but they don't compare the 3 practices. So you have to compare and contrast the 3 practices. This is why you're only selecting one area of need, because the 3 evidence-based practices you pick are all going to be for that one area of need. It will make it easier for you to compare and contrast them. That's going to be about 3 to 6 paragraphs minimum. And then you're going to decide which evidence-based practice you think would work best for your case study student. I say the word you, but remember you're doing this as a group. So all of you have already put yourselves into groups, so you're going to go ahead and use the groups. I have already set up your groups in D2l so that only one of you has to hand in the paper to D2l, and then everybody will upload their own papers into live text. The other thing that I always make sure my students know is that if you would like to hand in your paper in advance, at least 3 days before it's due, I will review the paper for you, send you edits, and send it back to you for you to revise and then submit it. I will tell you that the students who do this definitely do a better job on this paper and on all the papers in my class, but especially this paper. If you hand it in advance, I'll tell you what you didn't do, and I'll tell you what you did well. So use that opportunity, okay? As far as the points breakdown, the paper is worth 100 points, and it breaks down like this. So 10 points is your description of the student, 10 points is the area of need. Use the data from the report that you have to talk about the area of need. 25 points is your evidence-based practice chart. 25 points is the compare and contrast, and 25 points is the selection of your practice and the reasons why, the rationale. Okay, then 5 points for APA and grammar. I will fix your APA for you if you send it to me in advance, and I will tell you, fix this, fix this, fix this, and this is how to fix it. Okay, so that's how people get those points back, because I find a lot of people lose the points there. This is just the rubric, so you can see kind of how I break it down so that you know what it looks like, but this is all in D2l for you also. So what do you have to have in each section? The background information, the description of the student, you have to have their name, their age, their grade, any previous background experience you have, previous interventions, and why this child was referred for special education, okay, why they were referred to have an assessment. All of that information is going to go into your background information. I'm going to show you another place where all of this is in just a second. Then your area of need. Why do you choose this? What do you already know about learning that makes you make the decision? You know a lot about learning already, especially if you pick something like reading. You know how students learn how to read. You've learned that in your reading class. Bring that information into this class. Okay, so bring what you know from your other classes right over here. And then what other information do you think is helpful? So if you have a student, some of you have the one student who just moved here from Africa, and they had never had any previous schooling. That's important information to know. And that's going to be part of your background and your area of need when you're selecting an area of need for the student. Okay. So take a look at this set of scores. And I only really want you to look at the standard score right now. By looking at the standard score of this student with the understanding that 100 is average, what would you choose as the area of need for this student? Go ahead and put it in the chat box. So I see a lot of people saying passage comprehension. Yep, absolutely. Passage comprehension could absolutely be the area of need. What other area of need could you see for this student as well? Yeah, reading fluency. And if we think about the stages of reading, we have to be fluent readers sometimes before we get that passage comprehension. So we might want to work on fluency with this student, or you can work on comprehension. Either of those answers would be fine as long as you support it with the data that you have. Okay. Now, if you had said that we were going to work on letter word identification, I don't know that that would be the best area because the student already knows how to read words. They're getting a 98 there. So they can read words and they're pretty much reading on grade level, reading individual words. They also can sound out words because they have those word attack skills. And that's what word attack would look at. So they know how to sound out the word and they know how to read a word. Where they're coming into those difficulties are that passage comprehension and the reading fluency. You'll also notice that the applied math, the applied problems is lower as well. And doesn't reading comprehension go hand in hand with applied math? So because they go hand in hand, now we start to see how these scores all work together, okay? So the evidence-based practice worksheet is going to ask you for all of these things that are right here, but I'm going to show you where you can find 99% of this information in just a second, okay? And the worksheet is already set up for you, ready to go. And this is where you'll find it. So I'm going to take you over to D2l and show you where it is in D2l because I already have it set up for you here. So you can see that I'm looking at this as a student right now. If you go over here to your assignment information, remember assignment information is over here on the left. It's not just looking at assignments up here. The assignments up here is just going to tell you what the assignment is. The assignment information is where you're going to get your information. So go down to key assessment and we're going to open it up, look at the content. And you will see here's your assignment and here's your evidence-based practice worksheet. So when you open that up, you will see this is all set and ready to go for you. You're just going to download this and fill it out. When you go back here, you will see that there is an example already filled out for you. In just a second. Come on. Of course, oh, there we go. Okay, so here is an evidence-based practice worksheet already filled out for you. You'll notice there's not a lot of full sentences here, and I don't expect that. I expect you this is a worksheet. This is your graphic organizer so that you can do the next part of the paper where you have the comparison contrast. And all of the information is right here for you, okay? So, but where will you find it for when you pick your practices? If you go down here, I have given you a ton of resources. All of these websites are going to give you the information you need. One of the best is going to be right here, this first link here. This you'll notice is part of an IRIS module. And if we go to page 3, we go down here and sorry, that's not the correct page. So if we go here and we click here, and it says, click here for a list of organizations that are trustworthy. And then it also has a link that says evidence-based practice summaries. You do have this website that's already here in D2l for you. When you go to click on that link, same one. I just have to make sure you have the right one. So when you go here and click evidence-based practice summaries, it opens up another website for you. So we had talked before about how we were going to look at reading comprehension. So I'm going to go down here to reading and literacy. And here are all kinds of evidence-based practices for you. And if we say we want to use, let's look at adolescent literacy. And we're going to pick this one right here, accelerated reader. If we go to the research summary, it brings up all the information you need for that evidence-based practice worksheet in the intervention report. Everything's here for you. It has the research, it has the scope of use, how to teach, the cost, whether or not it meets the standards. All of the information you need for the evidence-based practice worksheet is right here for you. If you have a hard time finding the information you need, you're going to reach out to me and ask me, because I will help you through that and help you find what you need. Now, do not ask me when you first start. Take some time and work on it yourself. And then if you get into struggles, just let me know. Let me go back here. So here's the information here. All of these websites are in D2l already for you. This just shows you those websites. As I said, the comparison contrast section is the area that students lose the most points on this paper, okay? And what it is students, all they do is tell me about the evidence-based practice. That's great. I already have your worksheet. I can read your worksheet. I want you to compare and contrast these practices. Talk about what's good. Talk about what doesn't work, because all of these have flaws. There is no perfect practice. All of them have flaws in some way or shape or another. So talk about the flaws. It's okay. I expect you to. And then the last piece is going to be selecting one practice out of your 3 that you think would be most effective for your student, and tell me why. And what evidence do you have to support your decision? You do need to make sure that you have at least 5 resources that you're using. The websites here and your evidence-based practice worksheet, or not the worksheet, but the if you use What Works Clearinghouse and you have this document here, this counts as one of your resources. So if you have to have 5 and 3 of your resources are these pages, that's fine. That's 3 of your resources done. And then you'll find that at the end of all of these reports is a ton more research. Now, don't just cite this. Go and actually read something. I don't want you to just look at it. I want you to read it as well. But if you go and look at one of these articles, you can read the article and then you have the research. So it makes it really easy for you. And most of you have 3 to 5 people in your group. If each of you reads one, you each only have to read one piece of research. It makes it easy for you, okay? I also have put in here 2 exemplars. Both of these student exemplars received 100% on this paper. So look at the exemplars that I gave you. Also, if you look right here where it says KA Part 1, I have already set up your paper for you. Okay, so here's your paper. Just download this. And in each of the sections, I ask you questions. Make sure you're answering the questions that I put there. This is going to lead you right through your entire paper. Okay, so make sure you use those. I also set up for you a reference page so that you can go ahead and use that reference page, but that's just set up for you. Okay, there are examples. I believe I put the, I may need to put the examples of the reference pages. I'll put those in here for you so you have those as well. But I've tried to give you as much information as I possibly can without writing this for you. So that being said, what questions do you have about the paper, about what the expectations are, what you need to do?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
For the graphic organizer, since we're doing that in a group, That's due this. That's like the small task for this week, right?
No, it's not. The small task for this week is completely different.
Okay. So that graphic organizer though for this, can we do
Mhm.
that in a group or is that like you
Yeah,
want? Okay.
yeah, do that. It's all part of the paper. So yeah, do it together.
Okay.
Yeah, what I usually suggest to students, especially when they're having a hard time doing group work, is when you hand in your paper, and actually you will see this in one of the papers that I gave you as an exemplar, have each of you write in a different color. And then I actually see who has done the work. And if there is a problem in your group of somebody maybe not carrying their weight, I can actually see it. And then I can say something about it. It makes it easier for me to say something about it. But you'll notice that in one of the papers that I put up as an exemplar, the students did it that way. They all wrote in a different color. I was able to give them feedback and it worked really well for them. Other questions? The due date for this paper is October 16th. So you still have a couple more weeks before this is due, but I wouldn't wait to the last minute. I would get started on this now. That's why I'm doing the meetings this week and making sure I'm going over this with everybody this week. If you and your group want to meet with me to go over your paper before you hand it in, please just say, hey, Dr. Shears, can we meet? It doesn't have to be during my office hours because 90% of the time I'm sitting here doing grading all by myself and I'm happy to meet with you guys. So, I mean, if you have time during the school day, you want to meet, if you have time after school, you want to meet, just, let me know. As long as I'm not in a rehearsal, I'm happy to be here for you to help you out. Other questions? Does everything make sense as far as what you need to do for this paper? Is it laid out okay for you so that you feel like you can go ahead and get started on this? And you can say no. It's okay. That's what I'm here for. If you have questions, just seriously, please send me an email. Never feel like, I mean, most of you have sent me an email at some point in time at this point. So if you have a question, I'll get back to you right away. As I said, as long as I'm not on stage or in a rehearsal without my cell phone, I'm here for you to answer your questions. Okay. All right, if there are no other questions, I'm going to let you all go. I will be uploading to D2l the PowerPoint from today, so that will be in the resources for the key assessment. I also am making a video of just me talking through everything, so I will have that uploaded as well for you, that I go through everything in the paper. But if you have questions in the interim, just shoot me a message, shoot me a text, and I'll make sure I get back with you right away. Right. It's good to see faces. I miss you all. I'll talk to you all soon. Have a great day, everybody.
I had a quick question. Is there a certain day that you're like, okay, this is the last day to um allow me to see your key assessment before it's due?
3 days before it's due.
Okay, just
So it
make
would be like the 13th. I think it's due the 16th. So like the 13th.
okay, thank you.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, Beth. Go ahead.
So my next placement is interesting because I'm going into a resource placement, and the person who is in that placement is going to the teacher that she would push into.
Oh,
So
cool.
there's gonna be
Yeah.
4 of us in that classroom a lot of the day, and we were wondering if you had any advice for co-teaching with 4 of us.
Do some stations. Absolutely. Do some station teaching.
Okay.
Yeah,
'Cause-
that's going to be the best. And the other thing what I would do is do some parallel teaching where
Mhm.
2 of you take one group and 2 of you take the other group.
Okay.
I would do some parallel teaching. I would definitely be doing some station teaching. But it'll be nice if you do parallel, you can split your class in half, and then you could each be doing like a one lead, one support in the parallel groups.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, that would be really helpful.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, we were just thinking about it, and me and because it's Molly, we're gonna be working together. We also
Oh,
thought
good.
try out some team teaching lessons.
Absolutely. You definitely should. Yeah, try out some team teaching. I would try out some parallel teaching. I would definitely be doing a lot of stations.
Okay.
A lot of stations, and mix up those groups. Keep those groups constantly moving around so that you don't always have like one group of kids and one group of kids, so you don't end up like with the bluebirds and the red robins and that kind of
Yeah.
nonsense. But mix up those groups. So take data. So now you have the opportunity to do some one lead, one observe. Take some data to mix up those groups. You can really use a lot of differentiation and grouping.
Okay, thank you. Because
Yeah, and if you need suggestions as you're going through it, just reach out to me. I'm happy to help.
thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions, ladies?
I had a
Yeah,
question.
Karen.
But it's
Oh, Violetta, you want to go first? Go ahead.
Karen can go.
You want Karen to go? Okay, Karen, go ahead. You can go first.
Volunteers.
Hi.
For us who have our GACE that week, is there anything you recommend on how to make sure we get this done before then? When it comes to group work?
Say that again. Ask me that question again.
For us who have our GACE exam that week, is there anything you recommend we do in order to get this done before the due date and still have time for the revisions?
I didn't realize you were taking the GACE that week. I don't know how many of you are doing that. I mean, I would try and start it now. Because
Okay.
you really can. I mean, you
Yeah.
have everything you need to start now.
Okay. Yeah, we're just wondering that. I know that some
Yeah.
of us signed up in
Next week
October
and
and some in
next
November.
Yeah, and next week is going to be a pretty light week for this class because you have your co-teaching thing next week. So next week is going to be a pretty light week for this class. So you'll definitely have time next week to work on your papers as well.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. If we get to a point where like I'm noticing like a lot of people are really struggling, I always take a temperature check like in the middle of next week to see where everybody is. And if we need to extend it a week, I can always extend it a week, but I always take a temperature check like midweek next week to see where everybody is on their key assessment. And if I'm like, oh, people are really falling behind, then I don't have a problem giving a little extra time on this part. The second part of the key assessment, which is much easier than the first part, I have a pretty firm deadline with that because I want you to have it done before Thanksgiving.
Okay, yeah.
I don't want it hanging over your heads over Thanksgiving break.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Violetta, did you have a question as well?
Yeah, it was just about co-teaching because I was looking at the syllabus and it had the due date for a plan. I just wanted to make sure that there was nothing actual due. We just have to do the immersion.
Yep, you're just doing the immersion. Yep,
okay.
Exactly. You're gonna do the immersion. Yeah, I just had something on there kind of as a placeholder so that you guys thought about doing like that worksheet that I gave you before your immersion experience next week. But I think you got a lot of your questions asked yesterday too.
Yeah.
When,
Yes.
Yeah, I'm glad it was helpful.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Bye. Have a good afternoon.
Bye, you too. Cameron, do you have other questions?
I thought I did, but I think I'm just gonna like wait until like our group gets together, like maybe start on it.
Okay.
And then see like if I have any questions like along the way.
Yeah, and you also have a I set up for everybody a D2l discussion board for you. So if you're having a hard time like getting in touch with each other, you can always chat in the discussion board too.
Oh, okay. That's awesome.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Sears.
Not a problem. I'm trying to think of everything. So sometimes it's hard. I try.
Awesome.
Okay, hon. I'll talk to you later. I hope everything is going well.
Oh, thank you. It is. It's just it's just like getting adjusted to everything has been.
I get it.
Oh, it's been a little rough, but we're getting through it.
You'll get through it. You'll get through it. I'll talk to you soon, hon. Bye.
Okay. Bye. Thank you.